Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. A car drove into a crowd in Munich today, injuring several people, according to police, as the southern German city prepares for a top-level security conference due to be attended by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. U.S. President Donald Trump announced he held calls with Russian and Ukrainian leaders today, expressing optimism about peace prospects, even as European allies and Ukraine stress that any negotiations must include strong security guarantees for Kiev.
And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed.
And the news starts now. A car drove into a crowd in Munich today, injuring several people, according to police, as the southern German city prepares for a top-level security conference due to be attended by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Bild newspaper reported that 15 people were injured. The Munich security conference is to start on Friday, and senior officials, including Vance and Zelensky, were arriving later today. A large-scale police operation was underway near the central train station. Police said on X they were able to detain the driver and did not consider him to pose any further threat.
We currently have to assume that at least 20 people have been injured and are cared for by colleagues from the aid organizations and the fire brigade. Of these 20, an undetermined number are seriously and critically injured. We have to assume that, and the fact that some people with minor injuries have made their way to the neighboring buildings, means that we can't say with certainty whether this is the final number of injured. There are currently 20 injured, some of them seriously, and we can't rule out the danger to life for some of them.
At around 10:30, a vehicle drove into a group of people. Several people were injured. We are on the scene with a large police contingent. In addition to us, the fire and rescue services are also on the scene. The person who was driving the vehicle has currently been secured, so we assume that there is no longer any danger to the public at the moment.
The incident appeared to have affected people participating in a demonstration linked to a strike organized by the Verdi Union, according to the broadcaster. The union said it did not have any information on the incident. The incident occurred around 1.5 kilometers from the security conference venue. Security has been in sharp focus in Germany ahead of a federal election next week and following a string of violent attacks. In a move that could significantly reshape the balance of power in the South China Sea, India is reportedly poised to sell a major missile system to the Philippines, and sources tell Reuters that a deal worth over $200 million is expected to be finalized this year. This potential sale comes as tensions continue to escalate between the Philippines and China over overlapping territorial claims in the region. The Philippines, seeking to bolster its defense capabilities, has expressed strong interest in India's Akash missile system. This surface-to-air missile, with a range of up to 25 kilometers, is designed to intercept aerial threats. This wouldn't be the first major defense deal between India and the Philippines. Back in 2022, Manila purchased the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile system from India for a hefty $375 million. And as we've learned, the Philippines Armed Forces Chief recently indicated the country's desire for even more military hardware from India, including additional BrahMos missiles and even submarines. For India, this potential sale represents a significant step in its efforts to become a major player in the global arms market. While traditionally a large importer of weapons, India is now focusing on domestic production and boosting exports, particularly to countries wary of China's growing military influence. This strategy comes after a tense border clash between Indian and Chinese troops in the Himalayas back in 2020. While details like the exact number of missiles involved remain undisclosed, Sources suggest this deal could be even larger than India's previous $230 million Akash missile sale to Armenia last year. Australia has expressed serious concerns to China following an incident in the South China Sea, where a Chinese fighter jet allegedly acted in an unsafe and unprofessional manner towards an Australian Maritime Patrol aircraft. Now, this confrontation occurred on February 11, when a Royal Australian Air Force P-8A Poseidon was conducting routine surveillance in international waters. According to Australia's Defence Minister Richard Marles, the Chinese J-16 fighter jet released flares within just 30 meters of the Australian aircraft. Marles emphasized that this action posed a significant risk to the safety of the crew and the aircraft itself. He stated, "That is an action that we've declared as being unsafe," and confirmed that Australia has raised its concerns with Chinese officials both in Canberra and Beijing. In response, China's foreign ministry accused the Australian aircraft of deliberately intruding into its airspace, claiming that their actions were legitimate and professional.
Without China's permission, Australian military aircraft deliberately intruded into the airspace of China's Xisha Islands, violating China's sovereignty and endangering China's national security. The expulsion measures taken by the Chinese side are proper, legal and professional measures to exercise restraint, and the Chinese side has lodged solemn representations with the Australian side. Australia is required to stop infringement and provocation and stop undermining peace and stability in the South China Sea.
The spokesperson for the ministry asserted that China had taken necessary measures during the encounter. Adding to the tensions, Australia's Defence Department reported that a Chinese naval task group was operating in waters northeast of Australia, including a frigate and other vessels that have recently entered Australia's maritime approaches. News from Taiwan, where a suspected gas explosion has rocked a major department store in the heart of Taichung City. Fire officials confirm at least 5 people or 4 people have lost their lives, with 7 others injured in the blast. The explosion occurred earlier today on the 12th floor of the Shin Kong Mitsukoshi department store, where construction work was underway. The floor's food court had been closed due to the ongoing building work. Taichung Mayor Liu Xiaoyan, whose office is adjacent to the building, described the moment of impact, saying, "I was working in the city government building around 11:30 a.m. and because it's right next to Shin Kong Mitsukoshi department store, I felt a vibration. The explosion is very serious and the rescue is ongoing."
To all our residents and friends, please cooperate with us because of the vast area affected by this gas explosion, and some pedestrians were hit by the falling debris and showed no sign of life. This is why we have closed off the area to traffic and pedestrians, as there are many office and residential buildings nearby. I would like to ask everyone for their cooperation and to keep everyone safe.
The blast has affected a wide area of the city center, with at least 1 passerby among the casualties. Local authorities are urging people to avoid the area. A front-runner train collided with an SUV in Layton, Utah on February 4 after the vehicle was pushed onto the tracks by a pickup truck. The Utah Transit Authority reported that the crash occurred at 1000 South Angel Street, and video footage shown here was released on February 11. One angle recorded from the train conductor's perspective shows the moment of impact as the locomotive strikes the stranded SUV. Another view, filmed from behind the crossing, captures the chain reaction leading up to the crash. As warning lights flashed at the crossing, a white SUV came to a stop but was rear-ended by a pickup truck, forcing it onto the tracks. The driver attempted to reverse under the crossing arms, but appeared to stall and exited the vehicle just before impact. According to local press, no injuries were reported. U.S. President Donald Trump announced he held calls with Russian and Ukrainian leaders today, expressing optimism about peace prospects, even as European allies and Ukraine stress that any negotiations must include strong security guarantees for Kiev. Now, Trump confirmed plans to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, while key differences remain over Ukraine's territorial integrity and NATO aspirations. Take a look.
We had a great call.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that he had taken calls with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed.
Trump and the Kremlin confirmed that the two leaders plan to meet in person. Ukraine demands that Russia withdraw from captured territory and wants NATO membership or equivalent security guarantees to prevent future attacks by Moscow. Also on Wednesday, ministers from France, Britain, Germany, Poland, Italy, Spain, and the European Commission met with Ukraine's foreign minister in Paris. In a joint statement, they agreed that Ukraine should be put in a position of strength and that Ukraine and Europe must be part of any negotiations, adding that the European powers were looking forward to discussing the way ahead with their American allies. The statement was released after that meeting was derailed by comments from U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth that Ukraine cannot expect to return to its pre-2014 borders or join NATO.
We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. A durable peace for Ukraine must include robust security guarantees to ensure that the war will not begin again. This must not be Minsk 3.0. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine.
When Trump was asked by a reporter on Wednesday if he sees Ukraine as, quote, an equal member of this peace process, he said it was an interesting question.
I think they have to make peace. Their people are being killed, and I think they have to make peace. I said that was not a good war to go into, and I think they have to make peace. That's what I think.
On Friday, Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are set to hold talks about the Ukraine war on the sidelines of a security conference in Munich. Zelensky said he hopes to meet with U.S. representatives at the conference to finalize security and economic agreements.
China has floated a proposal to hold a summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump to help end the Ukraine war. That is according to the Wall Street Journal, citing people familiar with the matter. Chinese officials in recent weeks have raised a proposal with the Trump team through intermediaries to hold a summit between the two leaders and to facilitate peacekeeping efforts after an eventual truce, according to people in Beijing and Washington, cited by the paper. China has been repeatedly urged by the West to use its close relationship with Russia to help end the war. Beijing has said it was not a party to the crisis, but that it had been consistently promoting peace talks on its own terms.
We have taken note of the relevant reports. Both Russia and the United States are major influential countries. China is happy to see Russia and the United States strengthen communication on a series of international issues regarding the Ukraine crisis. China has always believed that dialogue and negotiation are the only viable solutions and has been committed to promoting peace via talks.
In a peace plan last year, China, jointly with Brazil, proposed an international peace conference at a proper time and called for equal participation by both Ukraine and Russia. Russia occupies about 1/5 of Ukraine and has demanded Kiev cede more territory and be rendered permanently neutral under any peace deal. Ukraine demands Russia withdraw from captured territory and says Kiev must receive NATO membership or equivalent security guarantees to prevent Moscow from attacking again. South Korea announced strengthened aviation safety measures following a fire on an Airbus plane last month, saying the rules would include limiting the number and type of portable batteries allowed on the country's airlines. The measures come into effect on March 1 for South Korean carriers after an Airbus plane belonging to Air Busan caught fire on January 28 at Gimhae International Airport in southern South Korea while preparing for departure to Hong Kong. Under the new safety measures, passengers will be permitted to carry up to 5 100-watt-hour portable batteries, while batteries over 160 watt-hours won't be allowed on board. Security searches will include checking the number and types of batteries, and charging portable batteries on a plane will be banned, that according to the Transport Ministry in a statement. Mirroring a similar decision already taken by Air Busan last week, the ministry said it would ban passengers from keeping power banks and e-cigarettes in luggage stored in overhead cabin bins. The decision comes in an effort to address concerns over potential portable battery fires, according to the ministry, though the cause of the fire on the Air Busan aircraft has yet to be determined. The fire was first detected by a flight attendant in an overhead luggage bin in the rear left-hand side of the plane, according to the airline, and all on board were evacuated safely. Global aviation standards say batteries must not be placed in checked-in luggage because they can start intense fires if they short-circuit due to damage or manufacturing faults. In other news tonight, Myanmar ethnic armed group, the Democratic Karen Buddhist Army, or DKBA, handed over 260 people from different nationalities suspected to have been entrapped in illegal online operations. A video by the Thai Army showed hundreds of people crossing to the Thai border via the Moe River in Phra district of Thailand's western Tak province. Thailand last week cut electricity, internet, and fuel supplies to 5 border areas in Myanmar as the Southeast Asian nation stepped up efforts to choke the scam centers that have become a growing security concern. Scam compounds in Southeast Asia, including those along the Thai-Myanmar border, are suspected to have entrapped hundreds of thousands of people in illegal online operations, generating billions annually, according to a 2023 UN report. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. Mount Etna put on a spellbinding show with plumes of smoke rising from its summit and lava flowing from the new Boca Nuova crater. Here's new drone image and footage showing volcanic activity of Europe's tallest volcano, with the region of Sicily recording ongoing seismic activity with several earthquakes reaching magnitudes up to 3.7 detected in the summit area, likely linked to internal magma movements. Mount Etna, standing at around 3,300 meters or 10,800 feet high and located above the Sicilian town of Catania, often erupts but rarely causes damage. It's believed to have the longest written record of eruptions than any other volcano, with its first recorded observation going back to 425 BC. Tech entrepreneur Elon Musk has announced that his latest AI chatbot, Grok 3, is nearing completion and is set to be released within the next week or two. Speaking at the World Government Summit in Dubai, Musk highlighted Grok 3's advanced reasoning capabilities. Take a look.
Well, I mean, Grok 3 has very powerful reasoning capabilities. In the tests that we've done thus far, Grok 3 is outperforming anything that's been released that we're aware of. We're really in the final stages of polishing Grok 3. Probably it gets released in about a week or two, so pretty soon. It's a week, maybe 2 weeks. I think it'll be very good. And I think we think it'll be better than anything else. And then maybe this might be the last time that any AI is better than Grok. I think the evidence is there in that OpenAI has gotten this far while having at least a sort of dual profit, non-profit role. What they're trying to do now is completely delete the non-profit. And that seems really going too far.
He also shared his perspective on the future of artificial intelligence, suggesting that machine intelligence will eventually surpass human intelligence.
But human intelligence, I think, will be dwarfed by machine intelligence. I'm not sure how to feel about that, except that it appears to be inevitable. That at some point, human intelligence will be a very small fraction of total intelligence. Digital intelligence will be more than 99% of all intelligence in the future.
Grok 3 is developed by Musk's AI company, xAI, positioning it as a competitor to existing chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT. The tech community eagerly anticipates its upcoming release. Could America's next moonshot be grounded before it begins? Sources say Elon Musk is urging President Trump to cancel NASA's massive Space Launch System rocket, a program that's billions over budget. But with thousands of jobs at stake in key Republican states, the move could trigger a political firestorm.
It's supposed to take American astronauts back to the moon, but NASA's giant new rocket has been dogged by delays and cost overruns. Now the Space Launch System, or SLS, could be a target for Elon Musk as he seeks government cost savings on behalf of Donald Trump. But will he really try to cancel it? Musk has been a regular critic of the SLS, calling it outdated. He says thinking about the rocket makes him sad. The SLS is years behind schedule and way over budget. Now it's estimated each launch could cost up to $4 billion, and the rocket can't be reused. Rivals, including the so-called Starship being developed by Musk's own firm, SpaceX, are cheaper and can be reused. Ex-astronaut Garrett Reisman has served as an advisor to SpaceX.
When we launch a rocket, typically the cost of the fuel is 1 or 2% of the total cost of the mission. If you look at an airliner, the fuel cost is over 90% of the cost of that mission. Starship, because it's 100% reusable, has the promise to get us more like that airliner, right? Where the cost of the fuel is actually the major cost of the launch.
The SLS finally made its first flight in 2022. It took an uncrewed NASA space capsule on a trip around the moon. And the space agency says the SLS is vital to its plan to return astronauts to the lunar surface within a few years. Supporters like former astronaut Bob Cabana say it's the only operational rocket big enough to do the job.
What an amazing rocket we've built. The most powerful rocket ever, 8.8 million pounds of thrust, with those 5-segment solid rocket motors and those 4 RS-25 engines. Absolutely amazing.
If Musk does want to cancel the SLS, it may become a test of just how powerful he now is. The rocket program supports some 28,000 US jobs, concentrated in the Republican strongholds of Alabama and Texas. It's built by major contractors Boeing and Northrop Grumman. All that gives it friends in Congress. Cancellation would also upend NASA's race with China, which has targeted a moon landing in 2030. Musk would also probably face accusations of a conflict of interest if scrapping SLS benefited his own firms. And that could mean the final decision lies with Trump himself. SLS supporters reckon he won't cancel the rocket if he wants to be president when America next lands on the moon.
And story from the frontiers of space, one that has astronomers worldwide keeping their eyes on the skies. Scientists at the European Space Agency are tracking a newly discovered asteroid with a unique trajectory that brings it into Earth's neighborhood in 2032. Take a look.
Scientists are monitoring an asteroid that has a chance, albeit small, of hitting Earth. But there's no need to panic, at least not just yet. Asteroid 2024 YR4 has an almost 99% chance of safely passing Earth on December 22nd, 2032. It's currently moving away from the planet, but will return in 2028. And a possible impact cannot yet be entirely ruled out. That's why, since it was first identified as a threat in December of last year, it's being closely monitored by the European Space Agency. Here's Juan Luis Cano of the ESA's Planetary Defense Office.
Let me tell you, the most likely scenario is that by the time we lose sight of the object in April this year, the impact probabilities will have lowered enough not to worry about this object anymore. However, there are still some small chances that it will remain in our risk list, and when we come back, when it will come back in 2028 and we reobserve it, at that time, it will have been so much time enough for us to determine whether, let's say, it will be impacting or not completely. So it will be a 0 or 100%.
Although the density and makeup of the asteroid is not yet known, it's estimated to be travelling at around 15 times the speed of a high-velocity bullet.
The impact velocity, which will be in the order of 17.3 kilometers per second at the moment of the possible impact, and the density of the object, which we don't know. So for that, we have to do some, let's say, estimates. Let's say the amount of energy that would be released, taking into account those uncertainties, could range between 5 to 50 megatons.
As of January 29th, the European Space Agency estimates the probability that the asteroid will hit Earth on the 22nd of December 2032 to be 1.2%. Scientists are set to meet to discuss Earth's response if the asteroid's impact probability remains above the 1% threshold, which could include crashing a spacecraft into it to deflect it off course.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. As we close tonight, let's remember that in times of crisis, kindness knows no boundaries. From our newsroom to your world, this is Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. Good night.